There are moments in history when everything changes, when the old rules dissolve like morning mist, and the universe reveals itself to be far stranger than anyone imagined. For the Keltharian sovereignty, that moment arrived on a routine morning shift, announced by alarms that had never sounded in 300 years. Captain Vryn stood motionless before the cascading holographic displays. Her silver eyes reflected the crimson warnings that painted her face in shades of alarm. She was a veteran of 40 campaigns, a decorated officer whose tactical brilliance had secured borders against the Morthic incursions and the Plasma rebellions. Her crew respected her steady command, her ability to remain calm when others panicked. But even she felt her breath catch as the impossible data streamed across her vision. "Status report," she said, her voice carrying the weight of command through the bridge of the Sovereignty battlecruiser, Eternal Vigil. Lieutenant Dax, a young officer with bronze skin and 4 arms that moved in practiced synchronization across his console, looked up with barely concealed fear. "Captain, the quantum barrier has been compromised. Section 97 Alpha." Something passed through. Vryn's secondary heart skipped a beat. The quantum barrier wasn't just a defense system. It was the pinnacle of Keltharian engineering, a network of gravitational anchors and folded space that surrounded their entire civilization. 12,000 star systems, protected by technology that bent reality itself. Nothing could pass through without the proper harmonic signature. Nothing. Impossible. Chief Engineer Torvin rumbled from his station, his massive frame hunched over the diagnostic readings. The reptilian officer's scales rippled with agitation. The barrier has never been breached. Not by the Vexian Armada, not by solar storms, not by anything in 3 centuries of operation. And yet, Vryn said quietly, moving toward the tactical display, something just did. The central hologram materialized before her, showing a sector of space near the mining colonies of Hesper Prime. There, suspended in the void like a ghost from another age, hung a vessel unlike anything in the Sovereignty's extensive databases. It was small, absurdly so compared to Keltharian warships. Where their vessels were elegant curves of biomechanical fusion, this ship was angular, almost brutalist in its design. White and blue markings covered a cylindrical hull. Primitive solar arrays extended like awkward wings. Chemical propulsion systems studded the rear section, technology the Keltharians had abandoned millennia ago. "Analysis," Vryn commanded. Dax's fingers danced across his console, pulling up layers of sensor data. The ship measures approximately 60 meters in length. Hull composition is basic titanium alloys with ceramic heat shielding. Power signature is minimal, primarily fusion-based. No energy weapons detected, no shield generators, no faster-than-light capability that we can identify. "A probe?" Torvin suggested. "Perhaps from one of the younger species?" "I have cross-referenced every known civilization in our records," Dax replied, his voice strained. 49 spacefaring species, including the primitive ones still confined to their home systems. This design matches none of them. The construction methods, the materials, even the basic engineering philosophy is completely foreign. Vryn felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on her. In a galaxy mapped and catalogued, where every species had been contacted and classified, the appearance of something genuinely new was more than surprising. It was terrifying. "Have we attempted contact?" she asked. "All standard frequencies," Communications Officer Shira reported, her melodic voice tinged with frustration. "Mathematical sequences, visual symbols, even basic radio waves. The ship is receiving our transmissions. We can verify that much, but there is no response." "Could they be dead?" "Ship adrift?" "Negative, Captain. The vessel is maintaining position. Small thruster adjustments every few minutes to hold its coordinates. Someone is definitely piloting it." Vryn studied the strange ship, her tactical mind racing through possibilities. An invasion force seemed unlikely given the size and primitive nature of the vessel. A lost explorer was possible, but how had they passed through the barrier? A weapon of some kind, designed to look harmless? The Vexians had tried similar deceptions before. Deploy Interceptor Squadron Theta, she decided, her voice firm. Formation pattern. Diplomatic encirclement. Weapons armed, but cold. I want that ship tractored and brought aboard for examination. If it resists, disable propulsion only. Whatever this is, I want it intact. Yes, Captain. Dax relayed the orders. Within minutes, 5 sleek Keltharian interceptors launched from the Eternal Vigil's hangar bay. Each ship was twice the size of the mysterious vessel, their hulls shimmering with active camouflage fields. Plasma cannons remained retracted, but targeting systems tracked every centimeter of the unknown craft. As the interceptors closed the distance, Vryn felt an unfamiliar sensation creeping up her spine. It was not quite fear, not quite excitement. It was the feeling of standing at a threshold, of approaching a door that once opened, could never be closed again. Captain, Shira said suddenly, her voice sharp with surprise, the unknown vessel just activated a transmission. Not in response to our hails. It is broadcasting something on its own. Put it through. The bridge speakers crackled with static, and then a voice emerged. It was strange, with odd inflections and unusual rhythm. Speaking in a language the translation matrix struggled to process. But slowly, haltingly, words formed. This is the Earth vessel Pathfinder. We come in peace. We seek knowledge. We seek friends among the stars. Earth. The word meant nothing to anyone on the bridge. Another unknown to add to the growing list. Maintain approach, Vryn ordered, but her voice was softer now. Carefully, the interceptors moved into position, surrounding the small ship in a perfect geometric pattern. Tractor beams initialized, ready to lock on and pull the vessel toward the waiting hangar bay of the Eternal Vigil. And then, everything changed. The Pathfinder suddenly rotated, a movement so precise and controlled it could only be deliberate. Its nose pointed directly at the largest interceptor, and for a moment that stretched into eternity, nothing happened. Then the small Earthship did something impossible. Its engines flared with a light that did not match any known propulsion signature, and it accelerated. Not quickly by Keltharian standards, but with a trajectory that showed perfect understanding of orbital mechanics and tactical positioning. It slipped between 2 interceptors, adjusted its vector with micro-bursts of thrust, and settled into a new position exactly 3,000 kilometers from the Eternal Vigil. The message was clear, even across species and language barriers. We see you. We understand what you are trying to do. We choose not to comply. Dax stared at his console in disbelief. Captain, the movement precision required for that maneuver, the calculations, they would need a quantum computer array just to process the variables in real time. But their technology is primitive. Torvin protested, his voice a low rumble of confusion. Is it? Vryn asked quietly, her eyes fixed on the small ship that had just demonstrated it was far more capable than it appeared. Or have we just made a very dangerous assumption? This was only the beginning. The Keltharian sovereignty, rulers of their corner of the galaxy, had just met humanity. A species that defied all their classifications. A species whose primitive appearance masked an intelligence and a capability that was deeply unsettling. The ship, the Pathfinder, was not a weapon, not a simple explorer. It was a statement. A declaration that a new player had entered the galactic stage. Over the next few hours, the Pathfinder continued its silent dance. It never initiated hostility, but it effortlessly evaded every attempt at capture. It answered complex mathematical queries with elegant solutions, but ignored all requests to surrender. They were communicating, but on their own terms. The Keltharians, accustomed to being the most advanced civilization in any encounter, found themselves in an unfamiliar position. They were being observed, analyzed, and perhaps even judged. Vryn finally called off the interceptors. Hold position, she commanded. We will not treat them as hostile. We will treat them as an unknown. Open a channel. All frequencies. Send them our star charts, our historical records, a full cultural primer. If they seek knowledge, we will give it to them. Let's see how they respond to a gesture of trust. It was a risk, a monumental one. But continuing to treat the Pathfinder as a primitive vessel was clearly a mistake. The assumptions had to be discarded. The data packet, containing the accumulated knowledge of the Caltharian sovereignty, streamed out into the void. The Pathfinder remained motionless, absorbing the transmission. For a long, tense hour, nothing happened. Then, a new broadcast began. It was not a voice this time. It was music. Complex harmonies, soaring melodies, and deep, resonant rhythms. It was an art form the Caltharians had never conceived of. It was beautiful, and it was filled with an emotion that their logic-driven culture struggled to comprehend. It felt like hope. Attached to the musical broadcast was a single, simple image. A star chart, but not of their galaxy. It was a map of a place far, far away. And a single vector, a single line, pointing from that distant galaxy to this one, ending right where they were. The message was now crystal clear. We are not from here. We crossed the void between galaxies. What the Caltharians believed to be the universe was just a single island in a vast, cosmic ocean. And humanity had just crossed it in a tiny, unassuming boat. Vryn looked at the data, at the impossible journey the star chart implied, and then back at the small, defiant ship. The fear was gone, replaced by a profound sense of awe. Her universe had just become infinitely larger, infinitely more mysterious, and infinitely more interesting. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe for more tales from across the cosmos. The silence on the bridge of the eternal vigil felt heavy, like the air before a lightning strike. Captain Vryn watched the small Earth vessel hold its position with unsettling precision, neither advancing nor retreating. It simply waited, a patient predator that had just shown its teeth without biting. "New orders, Captain?" Dax asked, his four hands hovering uncertainly over his controls. Vryn did not answer immediately. Her mind was already 3 moves ahead, playing out scenarios the way she had been trained at the Caltharian War Academy. Every instructor had drilled the same lesson into her. Underestimate your opponent, and you lose before the battle begins. This small ship had just violated the most secure barrier in known space and outmaneuvered her interceptors with technology that appeared centuries outdated. What else could it do? "Pull the interceptors back to a defensive perimeter," she finally said. "No aggressive posturing. I want a full spectrum analysis on that vessel. Every sensor we have, focused on that ship. Find me something we missed." As the crew worked frantically, Vryn walked to the observation window that stretched across the bridge's forward section. Beyond the transparent aluminum composite, stars glittered in the eternal darkness. Somewhere out there was a species called humans, emerging from a world called Earth. A species the Caltharian sovereignty, with all its vast knowledge and 300 years of galactic dominance, had never encountered. "Captain, you need to see this." Torvin's voice held an edge of confusion. The chief engineer projected a new hologram into the air between them. "I have been analyzing the thermal signature from their engine burn. The energy output does not match the apparent thrust generated. Meaning either our sensors are malfunctioning, which they are not, or their propulsion system operates on principles we do not understand. The efficiency ratio is impossible by conventional physics." Shira added to the mystery. "I have been studying their broadcast, Captain. The language structure is complex, with multiple grammatical layers and contextual meanings. The translation matrix is having difficulty because their communication includes emotional subtext we do not normally encounter. They do not just exchange information, they embed feeling and intention into every word." Vryn turned from the window. "What are they saying now?" "The same message, repeating every 5 minutes. This is the Earth vessel Pathfinder. We come in peace. We seek knowledge. We seek friends among the stars. Shira paused, her antennae twitching with concentration. But, Captain, there is something else. Underneath the words, and the way they modulate the signal, I detect curiosity, yes, but also caution. They are as uncertain about us as we are about them. They are afraid, Rin said softly. But they are here anyway. That revelation changed something in her thinking. Fear was universal, but courage in the face of fear was rare. This was not a mindless probe, or an automated scout. There were living beings aboard that ship, beings who had traveled through unknown space, breached an impenetrable barrier, and now faced a military force that could vaporize them with a single shot. Yet they held their ground, broadcasting messages of peace while demonstrating they could not be easily captured. Captain, incoming transmission from High Command, Dax announced. Admiral Kestrin wants a direct link. Rin straightened her uniform. Put him through. The hologram shimmered and reformed into the imposing figure of Admiral Kestrin, commander of the Keltharian Third Fleet. His crimson scales were marked with scars from a dozen campaigns, and his 4 eyes held the calculating coldness of a born strategist. Captain Vryn, I have reviewed your situation report. A single unknown vessel has penetrated our barrier and evaded capture. This is unacceptable. Admiral, I recommend extreme caution. We do not understand their capabilities. I understand perfectly, Captain. They have a primitive ship with chemical rockets and fusion power. Your interceptors have plasma weapons and quantum shields. The capability differential is obvious. Kestrin's tone sharpened. I am authorizing you to use whatever force is necessary to secure that vessel. If it resists, destroy it. We cannot allow the perception that our defenses are weak. Vryn felt her secondary heart sink. She had served under Kestrin before, during the border conflicts. He was brilliant but ruthless, a commander who valued strength and decisiveness above all else. Subtlety was not his nature. Admiral, with respect, I believe there are variables we have not yet accounted for. This species managed to bypass technology that has stumped every other civilization for centuries. That alone suggests we should proceed with caution and gather more information before taking aggressive action. Your caution is noted and dismissed, Captain. You have your orders. Kestrin out. The hologram vanished, leaving Vryn staring at empty air. Around her, the bridge crew waited in tense silence. They had all heard the exchange, had all seen the conflict between tactical wisdom and command authority. Captain? Dax asked quietly. Before Vryn could respond, every alarm on the bridge erupted simultaneously. Warning lights bathed the command center in pulsing red as sensor data flooded across the displays. Multiple contacts, Torvin roared over the chaos. 5, no, 7 vessels just emerged from Quantum Fold. Unknown signatures, same configuration as the first ship. They are forming a defensive sphere around the Pathfinder. Vryn spun back to the tactical display, her blood running cold. 7 more Earth ships had appeared, materializing out of nowhere with the same impossible technology that had brought the first. Each was identical to the Pathfinder, small and seemingly primitive, but now they moved in perfect coordination. Their formation so precise it could only be the product of advanced tactical computers or exceptional training. How? She whispered. How are they folding space without a quantum drive? I do not know, Captain, Torvin admitted, his scaled hands trembling slightly. Their power signatures are still minimal. By everything we understand about physics, what they are doing is impossible. Shira's voice cut through the confusion. Captain, new transmission from the Earth vessels. Different voice, different tone. Play it. This time the voice was deeper, more authoritative, and the translation came through clearer. Keltharian vessel Eternal Vigil. This is Commander Hayes of the Earth Confederation Expeditionary Fleet. We have monitored your communications with your superiors. We understand there has been a misunderstanding. We did not intend to breach your territory without permission. Our navigation systems experienced an error. We mean no harm and request the opportunity to establish diplomatic relations." The words were polite, almost apologetic, but Vryn heard what lay beneath them. The humans had been listening to encrypted Caltharian military channels, had understood the language they should not have been able to translate, and had responded by bringing reinforcements. They had also demonstrated again that they could move through space in ways that should be impossible. "They are negotiating from strength," Dax observed. "No," Vryn corrected. "They are negotiating from knowledge. They understood the threat, calculated the response time for our reinforcements to arrive, and positioned themselves before we could bring overwhelming force to bear. This is not luck. This is strategy." Torvin pulled up a new analysis. "Captain, if each of these ships has the same maneuvering capability as the first, our interceptors will be unable to contain them. They could scatter in 8 different directions before we locked on. And if we destroy one, then we start a war with a species we know nothing about, violating every first contact protocol the Sovereignty has established." The chief engineer's voice was grim. "A species that can apparently travel through our barrier at will." Vryn understood the implications immediately. If the humans could bypass the quantum barrier, then every Caltharian system was vulnerable. Every military strategy, every defensive position, every carefully maintained border became meaningless. The balance of power that had kept the galaxy stable for 3 centuries could crumble in hours. She made her decision. "Shira, open a channel to Commander Hayes. Direct communication, no filters." "Channel open, Captain." Vryn took a breath, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. "Commander Hayes, this is Captain Vryn of the Caltharian Sovereignty. Your arrival has created a situation neither of us fully understands. I propose we both step back from the edge of conflict and talk. Not as potential enemies, but as 2 species meeting for the first time. Will you agree to a peaceful dialogue?" The seconds stretched out. In the tactical display, the 8 Earth ships held their formation, neither advancing nor retreating. Vryn could imagine the discussions happening aboard those vessels, the same calculations and risk assessments her own crew was performing. Finally, Commander Hayes responded, and there was something in his voice that Vryn recognized. Relief. "Captain Vryn, on behalf of humanity, we accept your proposal. We have traveled very far to find you. Let us not waste this moment with violence when we could build something better." We agreed to peaceful dialogue. The tension on the bridge of the Eternal Vigil didn't vanish, but it transformed. The fear of the unknown gave way to the cautious hope of discovery. History was not about to be written with plasma fire, but with words. And for Captain Vryn, that was a victory greater than any battle. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe for more tales from across the galaxy. We'll see you in the next one. The conference chamber aboard the Eternal Vigil was prepared with meticulous care. Captain Vryn had ordered her crew to create a space that felt neutral, welcoming, rather than intimidating. The usual military displays were dimmed, replaced with soft lighting that mimicked the natural spectrum of a dozen different homeworlds. A circular table stood at the center, sized to accommodate both Caltharian and human physiology. Vryn stood waiting, hands clasped behind her back, trying to calm the nervous energy that thrummed through her. In all her years of service, she had negotiated with pirates, reasoned with rebels, and faced down enemy commanders. But this was different. This was not about winning or losing a single engagement. This was about determining the future relationship between 2 civilizations that had, until this morning, existed in complete ignorance of each other. The door opened with a soft hiss, and 3 humans entered. Vryn had studied their images from visual scans, but seeing them in person was unexpected. They were remarkably similar to Caltharians in basic structure: 2 arms, 2 legs, bilateral symmetry, yet profoundly different in the details. Their skin lacked scales, appearing smooth and fragile. They had hair, actual hair growing from their heads in various colors. Their faces were expressive in ways that seemed almost excessive, every emotion playing across their features like water rippling in wind. The human in the center stepped forward. He was tall by their standards, with dark skin and eyes that held both warmth and keen intelligence. His uniform was simple, practical, adorned with symbols Vryn did not yet understand. "Captain Vryn," he said, extending his hand in a gesture the translation matrix identified as a greeting. "I am Commander Nathan Hayes. This is Lieutenant Sophia Okonkwo, our Chief Science Officer, and Ensign David Park, our Communications Specialist." Vryn hesitated only a moment before reaching out to clasp his hand, mimicking the gesture. The physical contact was strange, warm skin against her cooler scales, but not unpleasant. "Welcome aboard the Eternal Vigil, Commander Hayes. Please, be seated." They settled around the table, humans on one side, Vryn alone on the other with her first officer Dax standing at attention behind her. The initial silence felt fragile, like glass ready to shatter at the wrong word. Sophia spoke first, her voice gentle but curious. "Your ship is beautiful, Captain. The biomechanical integration, the way living systems support the technological framework. We have never seen anything like it." The compliment was genuine, Vryn could tell. "And your vessels confound everything we understand about physics," she replied. "You travel through quantum-folded space without quantum drives. You maneuver with a precision that should require computational power we do not detect." "How?" Nathan smiled, a gesture that transformed his entire face. "That is a long story, Captain. One that begins about 200 years ago on Earth, when a scientist named Rebecca Tan discovered something we call harmonic resonance fields. She wasn't trying to build a faster-than-light drive. She was studying the way sound waves interact with exotic matter at the quantum level." David pulled up a holographic display, projecting equations and diagrams into the air between them. "What she found was that space itself could be made to resonate, like a tuning fork, if you applied the right frequency patterns. It doesn't require massive energy, just precise timing and frequency modulation." Vryn leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. "You navigate by making space vibrate?" "In a simplified sense, yes," Sophia said. "We match our resonance to the destination point, and space folds to bring us there. It's not fast by what we imagine other species might achieve, but it works. Your quantum barrier operates on fixed frequencies, defensive harmonics meant to block conventional fold drives. We passed through because we weren't trying to overpower it. We simply sang a different song. The metaphor was beautiful and terrifying. The Keltharian sovereignty had built walls, and humanity had walked through them by changing the music. Why come here?" Vryn asked, her voice firm. "The galaxy is vast. You could have explored in any direction." Nathan's expression grew serious. "Because we detected your barrier. 2 years ago, our deep space monitoring stations picked up the harmonic signature of something enormous, something that suggested advanced civilization. We have been alone for so long, Captain. We have sent signals, built monuments, called out into the darkness, and heard only silence. When we finally found proof that we were not the only ones, we had to investigate. We had to know if there were others out there who wondered the same things we did, who looked up at the stars and asked the same questions." There was something in his voice that struck deep into Vryn's core. Loneliness. The humans had been alone, truly alone, developing their civilization with no contact, no guidance, no knowledge that anyone else existed. The Keltharian sovereignty had grown up in a galaxy already populated. They had always known they were part of something larger. But humanity had climbed from their world into an empty cosmos, carrying hope like a fragile flame against an infinite night. "You were not afraid?" she asked softly. "Terrified," Sophia admitted with a small laugh. "We spent 6 months just observing from a distance, trying to learn what we could about your civilization. We studied your communications, your patterns, your culture. When we finally decided to make contact, half the crew wanted to turn back. But you didn't, Rin stated. No, Nathan said. Because fear and courage are not opposites, Captain. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something matters more than the fear. We were afraid, but our need to connect, to learn, to find kinship among the stars, that mattered more. The words resonated in the chamber, creating a moment of profound understanding. Rin thought of her own choices, the risks she had taken, the times she had felt fear, but acted anyway because duty or honor demanded it. Your admiral wanted you to destroy us, Nathan continued, his tone careful. We heard the conversation. We brought the other ships not to threaten you, but to give you a choice. To make it costly enough that violence wasn't the easy answer, so that dialogue became the practical option. A gamble, Rin observed. A calculated hope, Sophia corrected. We studied your protocols, your history. The Caltharian sovereignty has a reputation for being fierce but honorable. We believed, we hoped, that given the choice, you would choose to talk rather than fight. Dax shifted behind Rin, and she glanced back to see uncertainty in his young expression. He was learning that the galaxy was more complex than the Academy textbooks suggested. What happens now? Vryn asked, turning back to the humans. Your presence here has already disrupted our understanding of security. There will be those in my government who see you as a threat that must be contained or eliminated. Nathan nodded slowly. We understand. We aren't naive about the challenges. But we are willing to share our technology, our knowledge, if it means building trust. The harmonic resonance fields, the principles behind our navigation, we will teach you freely. Not as bargaining chips, but as a gift between civilizations that could become friends. The offer was staggering. Technology that could revolutionize Caltharian travel, offered without conditions. It went against every political instinct Vryn had developed. Why, she asked, why give away such an advantage? David spoke for the first time, his voice young but earnest. Because we learned something in our isolation, Captain. Knowledge hoarded is knowledge wasted. Discovery means nothing if it's not shared. We spent 2 centuries developing technology alone, and it was hard, so hard. But imagine what we could discover together. Imagine what 2 civilizations, combining their perspectives and their insights, could achieve. Rin felt something shift inside her, like tectonic plates moving deep beneath the surface. She had spent her entire life serving the sovereignty, protecting its borders, maintaining its strength. But what these humans offered was not conquest or competition. It was collaboration, partnership, a future where the barriers between species became ridges instead. I cannot promise you that my government will accept this, she said honestly. There will be suspicion, debate, resistance. We know, Nathan said. Change is always difficult. But it starts with moments like this. 2 captains, choosing to see possibilities instead of threats. We're not asking for an immediate alliance or trust. We are asking for the chance to prove that humanity can be a good neighbor, a worthy friend. Rin stood, and the humans rose with her. She looked at each of them in turn, seeing hope and determination in their alien features. Then she made a decision that would alter the course of history. Then let us begin, she said. Not as Caltharian and human, not as separate species, but as explorers who have found each other in the vastness of space. Let us show both our peoples that the universe is not a battlefield to be conquered, but a mystery to be understood together. She extended her hand again, and Nathan took it. The gesture was simple, but in that moment, it became something more. A promise, a beginning, a bridge between worlds that had been separate for all of existence, now joining to walk forward into an unknown future. Aboard the Eternal Vigil, something new had been born. Not an alliance yet, not a treaty, but something more fundamental. Understanding, the recognition that despite all differences, Both species shared the same fundamental drive to reach beyond themselves, to connect, to find meaning in the infinite darkness. And that shared dream was the strongest foundation any friendship could ever have. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. See you next time.